Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Josh Anton with the Greathouse Team and RE Above and Beyond right here in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. So if you are thinking about buying an investment property, or you currently own investment property in Cleveland, you're definitely going to want to be familiar with Cleveland's lead-based paint coalition that's going on right now. We're going to talk to you about it today. Let's go. Okay, so if you've been doing your research, talking to your realtor, you own investment property here in Cleveland, you're probably familiar with the lead safe, I called it coalition, the lead safe certification program that has been in process now here for multiple years. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to you a little bit about the intricacies of it, why it's important. We're going to provide you with all the resources necessary to do your education and homework on the process. And we're in an interesting part of this certification program right now, in that March 2023 is when the quarterly schedule, the final schedule is for obtaining this certification to be completed, where they're talking about penalties and fines and stuff associated with not having your property certified, lead certified. So what does this mean? Well, right now, at least, this is only impacting individuals who own rental property in Cleveland. So if you're a landlord and you have tenants or your home is vacant, it's irrelevant from what we've read here. If your property was built before 1978 and you have not had your lead certification inspection and provided the necessary documentation and results to the proper authorities to be lead compliant, you fall in this category. So there are a couple of exceptions to the rules. If you have already provided the county with a prior abatement or results that you have actually taken care of that process, that can absolve you from this. I think the main question we have is, will you have to continually do that? There are some nuances that I think we have to really work through, and look, we're at the Greathouse Team. We're obviously here to educate you and point you in the right direction. We're in no way affiliated with the program. We don't work for them. We're not experts, but this is just simply a tool to use to move forward and get yourself compliant. So I actually just went through the process myself. In the upcoming stages of this video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience, but we highly encourage you to go to leadsafecle.org. That's leadsafecle.org, and read through the steps, the variety of steps that you have to take to start this process. Let's get it going. So why is this happening to begin with? Well, I'm not going to give you an hour-long spiel on lead paint, but essentially what this is prior to 1978, a lot of the paints that were used on exteriors and interiors of homes, around your windows, decks, whatever, had the risk of containing lead in the ingredients. And it was been proven over countless tests that consumption, or I don't know, people are eating these paint chips or breathing them in, whatever the case may be, whatever the science is behind it, it's proven that it can impact your health. Now, why is this relevant to Cleveland? Well, look, if you're buying a home in Cleveland proper, there's a very, very, very fine chance that that home was built before 1978. I don't have specific data on this, but I'm willing to bet that more than 90% of the homes in our proper Cleveland or greater Cleveland area were built before 1978. So they modeled this program. We're not the first ones to do it. I think Rochester is kind of one of the early stage cities that implemented this successfully, unsuccessfully. Well, they can be the judge, but we essentially modeled after their rollout. And so the process here is really robust. There's a lot of steps that you've got to take. But it's all about health, guys. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it is irrelevant. The main thing here is it's initiated, and in order to be compliant and absolve yourself from the risk of future fines and penalties, you have to do it. If you have tenants in your home, you obviously want to make sure that they're at no risk for any health hazards, getting sick, etc. That just obviously puts you at risk for further implication. So we get a lot of questions from investors about what this process looks like, right? What does it all mean? How long does it take? How daunting is it? How expensive is it? How long does it take to get the certification? What will the penalties look like? Are they really going to enforce these things? Those are all great questions, and we must err on the side of caution. We're always going to say, hey, look, it just simply makes sense. It's there. They have the ability to enforce these things, and we highly, highly encourage you, if you're looking to buy or already own one that's not lead certified, to go through this process, absolve yourself of any risk. That said, I'm very fortunate as I'm talking to you here today. I purchased my first investment property last year, and it was not lead certified. And so at the time when I bought it, the quarterly, they rolled these phases out for the zip codes. Essentially, each zip code was kind of lumped into a group, and then quarterly they have these timelines that these homes must be, the deadlines must be completed within. So mine was coming up, so I really had to jump the gun and get that process going. So I want to make it very clear. I'm just sharing with you my opinion, one man's opinion on this process, and how it worked out for me. I'm sure that others have different experiences, different inspector. So again, I just want to share that this is just my opinion. It's recent, so it's valid, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about how that worked. So essentially what I did to get started was I did exactly what we're doing now. There was just no video online to reference. So I was reading on the website here about what to do. And mainly I reached out to the lead safe department. The information is provided on who to call to verify whether or not your property has been compliant or inspected, or if they have any records of it. In my case, it wasn't. So I was starting completely from scratch. And what did I do first? Well, it's pretty easy. On the website, they provide a list of qualified inspectors and technicians for lead that you can use to come out to your property. You schedule them just like a regular home inspection would in a standard purchase, and they come out and they perform an analysis. So they also have a list of abatement or contractors that can remedy if it is determined that your property does require some work to be done to get compliant. We'll get there. But so I hired the inspector. I think it was about a 2-week out for them to come out to get scheduled. I met him out there. He was super nice, very informative. I think the fact that I was a realtor helped, because I was obviously very curious, knowing that we're going to run across this a lot. So I think the best advice I can give you, future investors, or if you're looking to add to your portfolio down the line, is those are the people that you have right there in that moment that you can ask all these questions to. And I believe it's their job to educate us and answer those questions and be a solid resource in the moment to show you what they're looking for. And I think that that's really helped me as we've moved forward in the process of assessing homes when we're viewing them and we know they're not lead certified. Just kind of get a better idea on what risk factors are present, right? Knowing what to look for on the windows, knowing what flaking paint looks like. I know that sounds stupid, but it's relevant. It's something that you're gonna, want to be in tune to understand your risk going in and what future costs might have. But the process itself, inspection-wise, I have a side-by-side duplex. It took about 45 minutes to an hour. They do a full walk around of the exterior of the property and all the dwellings on that property. So that's including your decks, your porches, exterior components of the home, garages. I didn't have a shed or anything like that on my property, but I'm like 99% sure they also check those as well. Basically, anywhere that pose a risk, they're going to have in that assessment. So during that process, what he's doing is he was sort of pointing out a few things that weren't necessarily lead. He can't determine that visually, but basically pointing out areas where the paint was deteriorating or flaking. And they do require you to remedy those issues prior to them sending the results of their swabs, which we'll get to next, out to the lab to be tested. So he basically gave me a running list of those items, snapped some photos, and then we went inside. And once we got inside, they have a minimum requirement of the amount of swabs that they do. I don't recall the exact number. I think it was something like 6 or 8, something like that, where they pull from different areas in the home. And, they put them in their little baggie, and it's all organized, and he's got a sketch of the home. And so they do all that. And like I said, that takes 30 to 45 minutes, not too long. And while he's doing that, I'm just simply asking questions. What are you looking for? What's the enforcement going to look like? And that's not really their job to give you definitive answers, but it's just kind of cool to hear others' perspective as they're engaged in this process. And highly encourage you to do that just to educate yourself. So after he was done doing the swabs, we went over this list again, and basically what I was tasked with was remedying the items that were apparent risk factors in order for me to then get to the next step where those samples were sent to the lab. So I had some flaking paint on my porch steps. So I went out, I sanded it down, got all the flaking paint off, and slapped a new coat on there. And then I snapped a picture verifying that it was my address. And I did that I had a door that had some flaking paint on it. There was a wall that some of the paint inside near the trim was flaking. Nothing crazy. It took me maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours to get done. And I sent the verification. The guy was great. He said everything looks good. He came back out, checked them to make sure that my pictures weren't wrong. That's one thing that I think is a misconception. They do verify that those pictures are actually in your home and that they're done. And then from there, he said, great, everything looks good. We send the tests back to the lab. And then you're really just sitting and playing a waiting game. After that, I got the results back. Both of mine were great, so I didn't have to do any remediation or anything like that. Very good. So it was determined that my investment home, both units, was no risk for lead or lead poisoning based on those results. So very good process for me. From there, what I did is they have a very directed way to get reimbursed for that inspection. They have grants and private funds that they've developed and built as a part of this coalition that you can use for reimbursement on your inspection. For remediation based on your income. There's a ton of factors there. We could go into that for a long time here, but there are plenty of resources at your disposal to help aid you in some of these financial burdens if you so choose and qualify to use them. The cost for me was $500 per unit. So I paid $1,000 that day to him directly to complete the inspection. The only other out-of-pocket costs I had were the paint and my labor to do the things that he requested of me in order to get those results sent out to the lab. So that kind of gives you an idea on what to expect, the timeline. After that, I filed the paperwork. I got reimbursed. I received an email from the individual within the board or the program that said, hey, based on the results and everything you sent, your property is lead safe compliant, and we will be generating an official certificate, which still hasn't come yet, but I know it does take some time. But you do have a letter that you can put at your property demonstrating to your tenants that you have properly executed the lead safe initiative and that property is safe. And I think that's something that's really important. If you're looking at qualifying your home for market rents, I think this is just another factor and a selling point that you can say, hey, look, if you're going to have children living here, I think it's important for you to know that I have followed the necessary precautions and the lead safe initiative as it's been directed, and this home is safe for you and your family. And I think that can help you not only get good tenants and ensure they're in a safe environment, but also help get you better rents, and that's very important as well. So that's what the process looked like for me. It was not too daunting. It's nowhere near as bad as some people made it out to be. I understand where it can be if you've got $25,000 of remediation to do. I get that. That's a possibility. I know there are great contractors here that can help you out. Okay, so I've shared with you my experience of the logistics of going through the compliance process. So I think the big elephant in the room here is what happens if I don't, right? Like, what if we just let this thing go and see where the chips fall? I certainly don't recommend that approach and strategy here. As it stands right now, March 2023, we've really hit the final deadline for this quarterly rollout of obtaining compliance. And so now to date, like, we haven't really seen, there's not a lot of resources out there for what the financial implications will be. The Lead Safe Coalition has sort of marketed this as a care and stick type of approach where, they've accumulated all of these resources to help take some of the burden off, to help reimburse for the inspection itself and abatement or remediation costs. So we want you to do this because it's important. We're going to provide you resources to do it. If you don't, the stick is, well, we can impose fines, we can impose penalties. What those are, like, kind of TBD at this moment. I don't really have anything firm that I can share with you. There's also literature or rumors swirling around how they can make it a little more difficult for you to evict tenants if you don't have the proper compliance. Now, I've heard both sides of that, and I think that's kind of a lingering question as this program is developing, that it's still working itself out. But the bottom line is this. I know that programs of this nature have proven to be hard to manage, and I think the common person might say, look, how are they really going to be able to enforce this right away? I can't disagree with that. I just don't want to be the one that's made the example. And I think that's a really good approach to handling your business and building your portfolio, is do things right on the front end. It's only going to help you with your tenants. It's going to make your life stress-free. You're not going to be worrying about when that letter comes in, if it's a fine or whatever. And we just highly encourage you to do that. Now, I also encourage you to work with a realtor that knows and understands what this process is and what to look for when you're viewing a home and getting a better understanding of what you're getting yourself into. Title companies aren't going to stop you and say, hey, this house isn't lead certified, you can't buy it, we can't close. Nobody's enforcing anything like that. Nobody's stopping you from buying a home that is or isn't certified, at least not at this point. So understanding what you're looking for on the front end and working with a local real estate agent that can do that for you and partner with you and say, hey, as we're viewing this property, I noticed that we've got some flaking paint over here on the garage, and the front porch might have some here. I would expect that if your lead inspector comes out, they're going to call those things out and make that get done. And then you can decide and collaborate whether or not you're going to ask for the seller to do that, or if you're going to absorb those costs and work it into your negotiation. But working with somebody that can help guide you through that process and mitigate your risk is absolutely going to be an important piece to this puzzle. I anticipate we'll be doing a few follow-ups to this video as this thing develops, and perhaps we see what the penalties start to look like and how they're being enforced. There's still a long way to go. We read an article that, like, I think only 10% of the homes have been compliant of the ones that should. So long way to go here. Don't be the example. And work with a great realtor that can help guide you along the way. So what we're going to do for you is we're going to put all of the links for all of the websites and resources that you need in order to educate yourself and formally go through the process, if it applies to you, to get this done right with as little stress as possible. And of course, if you're looking to invest or buy any real estate here in the Cleveland or Northeastern Ohio area, check out our information. It's below, and call us when you're ready to buy or sell your great house.